welcome to Wrestling. And guys, it's been a pretty crazy week in the sense that one of the most historical and influential figures in all of wrestling of all time, I mean, really, Justin, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everyone might not know exactly who he is, especially, people in America and stuff.
Yeah,
but he's definitely had his influence on not just pro wrestling, but all of
everything. We just talked about him last week, didn't we?
Probably a little bit, yeah.
We talked about him versus Ali. We just talked about him.
We did.
I'm sure it's
episode.
Not the first time we've talked about him either. We are talking about Antonio Inoke, who recently died. Can't say it was a massive surprise, Justin, right?
No, I've heard he hadn't been doing well for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least the last few years. And I know here and there we saw pictures of him and he wasn't looking too great. And I think the last thing I remember really seeing him interviewed on and active on was the Dark Side of the Ring episode about wrestling when the WCW went to North Korea.
Yeah.
So,
and we're going to get into that too, Justin, because he had a close relationship with North Korea, weirdly enough, which actually got him in trouble. But in the we'll get into it. But there's a lot to say about that.
Mostly a very revered person in Japan. But yeah, there is some controversy behind him, of course, and we'll go into that a little bit, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. And let's be honest here, just like any... a lot of legends. We talked about Vince McMahon. We did a Vince episode a while ago, who is a legend, but also has his flaws, right? Inoki had his failures, especially later in his career. He had a lot of big failures that just almost fucked up a bunch of companies. And we will get into that after the break. No, we don't really have a break, but if we get a Blue Chew sponsor, what do you think? Could you do a Blue Chew ad or a Manscaped ad?
Yeah, sure. I wouldn't. I could try it live both at the same time and see what happens.
Oh my god! What the fuck? That was intense. Yeah. So you watch anything this week, man? You see Dynamite?
No,
I forget where they're at on Dynamite. They're back. They're not in the Grand Slam anymore.
No, I'm like in the... Well, I watch New Japan. I'm able to catch up with New Japan on the weekends. Obviously nothing this weekend because for some reason Royal Quest wasn't available anywhere, but people
which is
live.
Bullshit because I heard it was awesome. Everyone on Reddit was like, this was even better than last time, and they did 2 nights. And they said that the FTR versus Aussie Open was like 5-star match.
And the meet and greets looked like so much fun.
That looked fun too. Yeah. I like how
I heard they were expensive, but they had fun meet and greets.
I would pay probably pay a little bit for a signed hat or something. But I will say this: they had El Desperado, and he goes, "Why the fuck did they put me next to Naito for the meet and greet? That makes no sense."
Yeah, that's funny. I like. Yeah, it was, it's just been a really stressful last couple weeks of work, and I'm hoping by the end of the month I'll smooth out a little bit, but it's just been a really rough, stressful month at work. A lot of projects.
Would you like to explain to all the listeners all the details of it?
No, it's just been stressful.
Okay. I gotcha.
And all that, so I've just been trying to knack her down on that, and just, life. So,
I don't blame you. Also, you do have a whole family around you, so
I took a few days off from drawing, and then I realized how much I need it because it does make me kind of feel better and release stuff. So I'm probably I'm going to be participating in the whole Sketchamania Inktober thing. So as I've already started doing,
at in-ring art on Instagram if you want to see the highest quality.
Yeah, sure.
Drawings,
so
but
if you're listening to this, you probably are.
Hopefully. Yeah, well, most of our listeners come from California, so I think they've seen you before.
Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, I watched Dynamite. I thought it was very good.
Yeah.
I thought it was a lot of fun actually. You had the Daniel Garcia kind of turning and you had Danielson in there too. Good story. The women's segment was really awkward. It's Paige. I don't know if Paige is at that level.
Well, she's
real weird.
She's also someone that is either not healthy enough to compete, or I don't know. Yeah. I guess you could say she's low mileage because she hasn't really ever really wrestled at a full time for that long.
Yeah, I saw some people saying some real mean stuff about her. She's look, bro, she's been probably partying for the last couple of years, and I wouldn't blame her if she was. And I mean, she's just been living her life, and maybe she needs a paycheck again, but it's going to take some time for her to get over with this audience, because it's not like before where they just run her in and she wins the Divas Championship.
Yeah, I know. No, I think I told you the story about Paige or Saraya. Is that what she is now?
Saraya, yes. Yeah, it is Saraya. Like a serrated knife.
Yeah. My friend and I went to a PWG probably circa 2015, 14, something like that. And, it was one of those shows where there's a lot of WWE people in the backstage.
Yeah.
And
oh, yeah.
I think she was there with Alberto Del Rio or something. And, sure enough, I just went right home after, and my friend ended up going to some bar in Reseda, and sure enough, Paige and Alberto Del Rio were there.
Oh boy! And you know what? Wasn't that like a violent relationship? Like I heard they were like fighting all the time. Maybe that came from Total Divas, and I apologize if that did. But doesn't that seem like a thunderstorm in the making?
I guess it was one of those very odd,
Del Rio himself
couple
is
to begin with.
Quite the fuck up.
Yeah. But anyways, he said that Paige was really, really nice and cordial and all that stuff. But on the other hand, Del Rio wasn't very nice, but she was really cool and took pictures with everyone and all that.
I've never heard Paige to be like rude to fans and stuff like that. It's funny though, bro. Like, okay, I've been wanting to talk to someone about this recently, and I promise, guys, we're about to get into Enoki.
Yeah.
It's only been 8 minutes. We're just going to talk a little more about some side stuff, and we'll jump right into it. I've heard of the certain wrestlers, and it's very subjective, but I heard certain wrestlers are just not cool. We have the CM Punk, right, who, like, we talked about a million times, like, don't walk up to him in public, right?
Or in private, either, I guess.
I've heard Shima is real tough to work with sometimes, but maybe that's more backstage.
Well,
Shima?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't see him getting booked a lot anywhere, so
maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's part of it.
We have seen him on AEW. We've seen him do some New Japan stuff, but not frequently, so there could be a reason.
Well, he quit Dragon Gate, bro. He fucking quit his home company years ago. What do you think about Sasha Banks? I've heard she is kind of tough to be around sometimes.
Yeah, Have
you heard that?
Yeah. But, I mean, I don't want to be hassled at 5 a.m. in the airport either, I guess. But
well, I think it goes a little beyond that. But, I mean, like, that's just one example. I mean...
Yeah, I feel like sometimes... I don't know. I'm not in that position, but, like, I feel like if someone just wants to tell me they're a big fan, like, I should be receptive because...
Well, and I'm just using that as an example of a situation, but I just mean personality-wise in general, where, like... as far as, like, easy to work with, personal,
I think easy to work with and asking for a picture at the airport are two completely different things. So.
Okay. Well, and I was trying to say, it's like your professional life versus your personal life and stuff, but I'm just going to say this, like, you're never going to hear of anyone say anything weird about Luke Harper, right?
No, I'm just, but I do... think there's a correlation. Like if you're not good with fans, there's probably more likely of a chance you're not good to work with the other wrestlers or professionally.
That's true. Know. That could be a correlation. Yeah,
I don't think,
but maybe not necessarily
100%. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot of people that were both. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you could be in Japan and be a heel, and then like you're not even supposed to talk to fans too. You know, that'd be probably
but
pretty
then
chill.
You saw those meet and greets, and they're just all over.
Nowadays, yes, they put the heels into meet and greets, which is kind of funny. It's like if they're so heel, they don't want to fucking talk to you, bro. So
you know what though, for the buck, you can be whatever. So that's always a good way for a heel to say, "Well, I'm getting paid, so
true.
I'll be their best friend." And of course, you've seen some of those meet and greets that MJF do, which are just fantastic.
I haven't. Is he just a prick to people? They love that.
Oh, and they love it. You know, like he'll sign their action figure and say like, "What are you, 10?" And then he'll like just push it off and throw it and stuff like that.
That's where I want to go to. You missed Dynamite this week. It was MJF. That was the best part of the show. Okay, now I know you're like, I'm not surprised, right? Yeah, but he's in a feud with Wheeler Yuta, which is pretty cool because Yuta's like more. I've thought about it and I was like, okay, no, MJF mainly feuds with top guys, right?
Right.
And they're throwing him in a feud with a younger guy, and it's really awesome. And Yuta Wheeler attacked him while he was in his what is it like? You know top suite, and that was
box, whatever.
That was pretty badass, actually. Yeah. So Yuta Wheeler, and Yuta Wheeler doing pretty good on the promos too. So it's like, you got to have that ability to feud with Maxwell in the first place. So
definitely, and I think he's a guy. I bet you that's just really good to work with.
Oh, yeah.
I think
both
he's
those
very
guys.
professional.
Oh, he's when we talk about MJF, were you talking about MJF or are you talking about Yuta?
No, MJF.
MJF. So I listened to a few of his interviews this weekend, right?
Yeah,
or last
he's
weekend.
Been all over, yeah.
And he was like, bro, he was so professional. It's ridiculous. He's like, AEW is the top company and like we have the greatest wrestlers. You know what I'm saying? Like he wasn't... Yeah. Remember when he was like burying the company? Like clearly he got the message, don't do that anymore. And now he's like,
he's saying he got paid. That's why.
Who knows what really happened? He probably got a pay bump, but he deserves it. And
absolutely, yeah.
He was totally putting over the company in his interviews. He was a dick, but he was also putting over his company and just saying this is the best place to work and all this stuff. He almost sounded like Seth Rollins. Anyways, speaking of all that, we spoke a little about New Japan a little while ago, and we can't talk about New Japan. It's impossible to talk about New Japan without bringing up the name Antonio Inoke, who actually founded New Japan back in the day. So, Justin, you said like you talked about Inoki's influence and stuff like that. I mean, what level would you put him at if you had to do a comparison? Like, who's someone that's in his vicinity? Would you in your mind?
I mean, he's kind of the Japanese version of Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan, kind of wrapped into one. Would you say?
Yeah, that's pretty true in the sense that there's like, yes, he was the huge celebrity, right? He was the Hulk Hogan, drew the massive TV ratings, but also was behind the curtain, right? For years and years and years.
And also was a politician. I mean, I would even say there's some correlations to say that, what The Rock is today in our generation is what maybe Inoki was in the 1970s.
Yeah, man. And it's crazy. And we have to bring up a lot of names here. And so I'm going to define these people right away, just so we can like talk about them and not have to explain to everyone who they are. But these are people that are huge in Inoki's story, really. So first, we have to bring up Riki Dozan, right? Yeah. And Riki Dozan is basically your first massive wrestling star in Japan. He was actually Korean. He was raised in Japan. And he was in the JWA. And the JWA was like the, WWF of the, 60s, 70s in Japan. So it was massive at the time. Huge black and white TV matches. It's really hard to put over the level that it was. You know what I'm saying, Justin, to people who don't understand?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just described it as what it was. It was just kind of the top company in Japan at the time, and
But it was mainstream too, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Which
right.
wrestling, so it's like you would hear stories of, the TV stores would have the black and white matches on the front of the TVs, and like people
Right.
would just like line up like hundreds
gather
of
around the
people.
outside.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how popular Riki Dozan was. Riki Dozan was murdered years later. It was kind of a mysterious thing. He was stabbed. I think he had Yakuza ties. Did you hear that story, Justin?
I've heard that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know there's sometimes with Korean, Japanese, there's kind of an issue with that sometimes as well.
Yeah, and, we'll do an episode on Riki Dozan later, and we'll talk about that more in depth. But that's Riki Dozan. The other person we have to bring up that you should probably know is Giant Baba. Justin, do you want to talk a little about Baba, or what you know?
Yeah. So Giant Baba was basically, in a way, the Andre the Giant of Japan. I don't think he was, he was a very large man, probably like a Yao Ming kind of stature, right? Not as tall,
it was
but,
weird. It's weird because Baba actually had like and I sorry if this offends anyone, but he had a kind of freakish body, or kind of it was a little grotesque.
In the gigantism kind of features, like
where
really
he had like
hands.
tiny arms and legs,
Right.
like they were super thin and stuff. Yeah, but
With really large hands and a large head, large ears, nose, that kind of stuff.
huge head, yeah. And but he was a wrestler, right? And
he was a wrestler, and
was an
then
athlete.
and then he was, did a lot of promoting later on.
Well, did you know that the JWA, we talked about that with Riki Dozan and stuff? Well, Inoki and Baba feuded in the JWA. So they were both younger wrestlers at the time.
Right.
And they both were in the JWA. So it's like generational rival to Enoki. And we don't just mean in wrestling. They started separate wrestling companies, right? You had, later on, we had Enoki start this New Japan Pro Wrestling. And Baba, his rival, went and formed All Japan Pro Wrestling, right?
That's so interesting. I mean, think about
fascinating.
Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels started rival
their own companies, and they both became like the best in the country, right?
Or and then Stone Cold and The Rock did it. Or I don't know, Triple H and John Cena. I don't know.
Triple H and Shawn Michaels, crazy. They both split up. The story is like, it's like you'll never hear of that story again in wrestling as long as we live, right? Because of the way media works nowadays. But back then, Baba and him split up, and they both formed their own thing. After Riki Dozan got stabbed, JWA, they figured we could do our own things here. So, just a fascinating life from Inoki. And a lot of the stuff that he did and dealt with. So he was born in Yokohama. He was born in 1943. Very old man. Lived a full life, that's for sure. And
yes, definitely.
He did karate.
Very old, 78, right?
Oh, yeah, 79, 78, yeah. Yeah. He played basketball. Now, obviously, Inoki kind of has a look, right, that you can't deny, especially when he was younger, right? Like, that's one of the things we have to talk about.
It's the strong chin.
He's got, like, this huge... It's almost comically large, right? Like, he looks like a superhero in a way.
Or, like, just, like, what was that cartoon character with the big butt chin, or... from Hanna-Barbera, the Mountie, or think
it is that chin. That chin is that large. Like, the dude has this striking jaw, massive chin. It's funny because although he is Japanese, he's got this Western almost flair to him in a way. Maybe because of his face size and his height.
I mean, in a way, he was 6'3"-ish. He had very, kind of big ears, a very strong, jaw, very unique looking. Of course, he had like the red scarf all the time, and
You said 6'3". You said 6'3".
Yeah.
I mean, you got to admit, in Japan, that is fucking huge.
No, I was going to say that being 6'3" in Japan in that era is probably being about like 6'8" here.
Yeah, in America, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, people will take pictures of you and, hey, man. But combined with the look that he had, I mean, God, it's almost like everything perfect came together with Enoki. You know what I mean? Like,
no, he's one of those guys that's like those prototype, right? The creative wrestler. Like, this is what the ideal look is. Like, he's definitely one of those handful of guys that.
And it was right place, right time. Like, as far as being an athlete and then getting into wrestling and karate and stuff.
Right.
Really, he chose the perfect career path. Maybe people would argue later on that it wasn't, but he just, yeah. So some real interesting stuff here from Inoki. He was one of the many people that went to Brazil from Japan. I don't know if we've talked about this, but did you know that Brazil has the second largest Japanese population outside of Japan?
Yes, I am.
You did know that.
Something I've talked about with my wife. Yeah, Japan.
It's fascinating. There's a big relationship there.
Yeah, there has been like a shared cultural thing between Brazil and Japan for many, many years.
Many years. Oh, yeah.
In terms of everything from culture, from growing crops to
martial arts.
But
well, yeah, you had a huge Japanese migration to Brazil many years ago. Same thing. There's many Germans in Brazil as well, actually, but kind of a melting pot. That's where you have a dude named Hiroshima Perez. Is like, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So he was one of those people that went to Brazil, and he went there in 1957. So at the age of
14.
14. Yeah. And in Brazil, he won shot put, discus throw, and javelin throw. So
what, in the Olympics or in what?
No, in high school.
Oh, you went to high school out there.
Yeah. So let me see here. Regional championships. I'm sorry, regional championships in Brazil. So like his county or whatever. So he was already, and he actually got the all Brazilian, the whole country championship in shot put and discus. So
he had that big old chin to rest it on when he was standing there.
Well, we see clear athletic prowess, right, from a young age.
Oh, sure.
So,
yes.
In so we go back, like...
Well, the thing that's interesting about him is, like, this is not just some musclehead. This is, like, the dude was a fighting machine, right? Like, so there's, a little bit of a kind of Stu Hartness to him as well, right? Like, he can hurt people. Yeah.
Well, that's for sure. Have you ever seen him slap Spider-Man? You ever seen that prank?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you watch it recently?
Yeah.
Okay. That kind of went viral again, and I'm glad it did. When Spider-Man drops through the ceiling and he just fucks up Spider-Man, right?
Or just seeing the lines of people outside the ring just wanting to get slapped by Enoki.
It's like, it got kind of stupid. I feel like that jumped the shark, by that point. It's like, slap me.
By the 30th guy.
Yeah. At that point, it did get pretty dumb. But Inoki actually met Diki Dozan when he was 17. He met him in Brazil. And he got picked up by Diki Dozan, who hired him as his disciple. So whatever they talked about, it's like, hey, dude, I'm like the best track and field guy here. Do you want to fight? I said, fuck yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the conversation was, but some crazy names were
very close.
Yeah. He hired him as his disciple. He went back to Japan. He trained with JWA under Karl Gotch. The machine, Karl Gotch, the Belgian and German-American, just killer, who is so influential on Japanese wrestling. And again, we'll do a whole show on him later. So he just studied and studied and studied and wrestled, and his classmate was Giant Baba, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, man. It went on for a while until he started New Japan Pro Wrestling in 1972. So now,
And
how
just doing the math there, that's at the age of 29.
29, yeah. He goes and honestly,
Starts his own company.
he was fired from the JWA because he was planning a takeover of the company.
Okay, so this is a guy that has, is a very like leadership quality, not afraid to take charge kind of person, right? So that's established.
I mean, clearly he was Ricky Dozan's disciple. So he kind of felt like he was next in command, and
right.
There was a lot of backstage politics. I mean, and yeah, he wanted. I don't know if he actually wanted to take down the company, but he was fired for the attempt. So, wow. I don't think you or I have ever been fired for trying to take a company by control of a company. Have you?
No,
yeah.
Any of the companies I've worked for, I had no desire to take over. I still don't,
I know,
so.
Me too. Yeah,
I'm
maybe
just
it
not
takes
that kind of person, I guess.
Maybe it takes a certain type of person. Then again, we live in America. It's a whole different world here nowadays. So yeah, he was planning a takeover, and he started New Japan. He wrestled Karl Gotch. He wrestled Luthez. All these different names. He wrestled Pakistani Akram Pahalwan. Okay, remember that name. And the match turned into a shoot with Akram biting Inoki in the arm and Inoki retaliating with eye pokes.
Damn.
Inoki won the bout with a double wrist lock, injuring Palwan's arm after the latter refused to submit. The finish was not written down or scripted, and it was a real fight. So,
wow.
It kind of sucks when you have to do stuff like that, huh?
I mean, I don't know. I think the guy probably enjoyed it.
You think Pahalwan wanted to actually shoot on
No,
him?
no. Maybe it sounded like it if he's biting people, but do
you know what the
Inoki
double wrist?
Probably was super happy when that stuff happened.
Do you know what the double wrist lock is? I think it's like a Kimura, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Something. Yeah, I think it is Kimura.
So, did you ever
lock.
see the Great Antonio versus Antonio Inoki? That's a classic one. Oh yeah, that one was pretty good because it was this huge fucking strong man, Antonio Barichevich. It's a really big dude and white guy, and he was no-selling Inoki's attacks, and then he started stiffing Inoki at the end of the match, bro. Right? So
Inoki, and you know Inoki at the time. Like, are these?
This was 1977, bro. They might not have known Inoki, and they might just been in town for a payday.
They were just trying to. They heard Inoki was tough, and they wanted to see how tough. I mean, I don't understand any other line of reasoning than that.
Well, the Great Antonio, as I said, he started stiffing Inoki. And Inoki actually responded, and he started hitting him with palm strikes and kicks, and then stomping his head repeatedly as he lay on the mat before the match was stopped.
Of course. Like, what else is he supposed to do?
I love that. For all Inoki's later booking decisions, I love that he got a shot on. And he just stomped the guy's head. Like
at some point, not to. You probably, you're stupid. Like, you can't be shooting on Inoki like that. I mean, come on.
If you're Brock Lesnar, it's one thing, right? But if you're like,
could you imagine if people just, as a habit, just shot on Brock Lesnar constantly?
Well, they would be fired immediately. Like in WWE, they'd be fired immediately.
Let's say, I don't know, like Bobby Roode was wrestling.
If Bobby Roode shot off, Bobby Roode would be fired.
Shooting on him out of nowhere. It's like, what are you doing?
Dude, he would probably get slammed on his fucking face and kicked in the head.
Like, I don't know. Like, there's maybe a few guys that randomly that you don't expect.
Now, Bobby Lashley shot on... Hey, WWE, if you're listening, this would be a good storyline. Bobby Lashley shoots on Brock Lesnar. They should do that, huh?
Yeah, let's do it. Why not? We'll do it in Saudi Arabia or something. But
Yeah,
I could see somebody like Dolph Ziggler, who
no,
is probably
it's got to be legit. You got to get a legit.
Well, no,
fighter.
He was an all college wrestler though.
Yeah, I'd be more trustworthy of fucking AJ shooting than Dolph Ziggler. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but anyways, saying, could you imagine if there was just guys were getting regularly
shot on?
The strongest guy, the most, biggest fighter.
And it's funny you mentioned that, Justin, actually, because part of Inoki's downfall has to do with wanting pro wrestlers to be MMA fighters, right? And like, I know you bring that up as a hypothetical, like, oh, what if they shot? But, like, Inoki tried to do that later on in his career, He was having Nakamura and awesome wrestlers like Nagata, fight in fucking MMA matches.
So part of the training that he was putting these guys through was, you know what? Like, could this have been something where he's like, I had so many people shoot on me, and I had to react.
That you need to know. You need to know
if these guys are going to be legit in my company. If they get shot on, they need to be ready to fight back. So that's why I'm going to go make them fight MMA. Obviously, the time may be past when that happened. Would have to worry about getting shot on as much. But, like, hey, man, that's probably why he did it, if you think about it.
And who really knows? We've talked about the history of wrestling. We've both been educated on it more. And, we know that, like, it turned from, like, a real thing into a worked thing over time, right? And, there's... Inoki wanted to keep that mystique going. He wanted to keep that. It's worked. Is it real? It's the king of sports, right? It's not the king of wrestling. It's the king of sports, dude.
That's true. I mean, I guess there is some aspect of it where let's shoot on each other occasionally just to remind everyone, like, this is,
and actually, I want to push a little more in that direction, because check this out. I heard Clark Connors, right? He talked about his New Japan audition for, who did he audition for, Justin? Shibata-san, right? And he said that in his, he went against another guy, I don't remember his name, but they just said, let's shoot for 5 minutes, shoot wrestle, right? And then we'll do a match. And actually, they were like the top rated by Shibata. So, in a way, it still exists. It doesn't mean punching your opponent in the face and stuff like that and slapping them and shit, but the shoot wrestling, idea of making it look real, it's still part of New Japan.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it being a strategy, like, for the first couple minutes, let's really go at it a little bit to establish everything else. I mean...
And you can improvise, too, right? You can just be like, let's wrestle. Let's shoot wrestle. And it's kind of a form of improvisation in that way. Calling your matches,
Absolutely. Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Especially
if you got two guys that are evenly matched or have a similar background.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny because Clark Connors said the match before us was a hardcore New Japan style, bang, bang, like no sell, get up, kick out at one, Hulk up, that style match, and Shibata was disgusted by it. So he said the shoot wrestling was better. Anyways, going back to Inoki's life, in 1979, Inoki defeated Bob Backlund, the WWF heavyweight champion, and he won the championship. So good on him, right? Backlund won the rematch on December 6th. However, WWF president declared the rematch a no contest due to interference by Tiger Jeet Singh. Do you know Tiger Jeet Singh?
Yes, he is the father of Tiger Ali Singh.
Really?
From the Attitude
I don't
Era.
know who Tiger Ali Singh is.
Yeah, just do an image search. He was this guy they brought along in the Attitude Era, and like, I don't know, 97, 98-ish, and he would come out there like this rich Indian guy, and he was going to be the next greatest thing, and he was trained with the Hearts,
Okay.
And
it didn't last long, did he? I never heard of him.
No, he did not.
Who did he ever beat?
Man, he had such a short run. He would come out in a suit and disparage Americans, and then it was the rich guy kind of angle. And, he'd had a few matches, but he just never got over. I think he thought he was going to be great or something like that. And
have you listened to Mick Foley's podcast?
No, I haven't.
Okay. It's pretty good. And there's like 20 episodes out now. But he talks about other wrestlers, and he's like, people be like, who did he ever beat? Like to talk shit about the wrestler. And he's like, he finds out Bam Bam Bigelow, and it's just like, he was telling somebody about Bam Bam Bigelow, and they were like, who did he ever beat? And it's like, bro, it's fake. It's wrestling. Anyway. Got the back scratcher going on, Justin?
Yeah, man. From Big Five, my back scratcher. Get that going a little bit right now.
So we were talking about, it looks comfy. I just use my calipers.
This is it's got like a bear claw.
Well, yeah, people are listening. He's got a bear claw, stainless steel back scratcher, maybe aluminum. It is a telescoping, is it not?
My wife hates when I ask her to scratch my back, and this was purchased for that reason. And
you can also discipline the children with it if they fuck up.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, if you put it all the way out and telescope it all the way out, bam. So
I got close today, catching the bear claw.
Oh shit! So we talked about Tiger Jeet Singh, and you talked about his son who did nothing ever.
I mean,
who did he ever
was
beat?
Part of some. I don't even remember him having a match. To be honest,
what was his name? Tiger Ali.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was Canadian. We
gotta talk about Tiger Jeet Singh for a minute because he's a huge part of Inoki's career. Check this out. They did like a real life shoot. No, it was like a work brawl, right? In a shopping center in Japan.
Wow, it's like the first episode of Nitro at the Mall of America.
In 1972, they brawled with each other at a shopping center, and randomly,
Booker T and Stone Cold.
Pretty much, but there was no TV to film it, so it was like word of mouth shit back then. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
It's like, dude, I saw these dudes fighting each other at a shopping center. And in '73, Tiger Jeet Singh feuded with old Enoki. Enoki broke Singh's arm in a 1974 match, but Tiger defeated Enoki to win the NWF title in '75. Only to lose it 3 months later. So they had a back and forth, and that is considered a legendary feud from them. Okay, we're going back into the late 70s. And, he ran New Japan from the 70s into the 80s. So when we talk about guys like, Tiger Mask, right? We talk about guys like Jushin Liger, right? Or all those guys. Like,
no, he was training, up into the early 2000s. I mean, he had his LA dojo out here, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a minute. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, he did. Yep. So, in '95, the Japanese and North Korean governments came together to hold a 2-day wrestling festival in North Korea. It
weird.
Drew about 180,000 fans, which is fucking wild.
Well, it didn't draw. They were told to go there.
Probably. Yes, you are right.
These weren't people that were waiting in line ready to buy merch and do the meet and greets.
Yeah, you're right.
They were pretty much herded in there.
I agree with that. The main event was Ric Flair versus Inoki, with Inoki winning. And days before the event, Inoki and the Korean press went to the grave and birthplace of Riki Dozan and paid tribute to him. Did you watch the Dark Side of the Ring on this incident?
Yes, I did.
Is it an incident? It's not an incident, is it?
What an incident?
I mean, that they wrestled in North Korea?
No, it's not an incident. Was it Too Cold Scorpio saying he was going to kill somebody?
Okay, that's no. The incident, the New Jack incident. That's an incident.
Yes, it was.
Okay. This was not an incident. It was an event.
It was an occurrence. It was an event. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the low key best episodes they did. Even though
I didn't watch that one actually.
That's a really good one.
Okay,
check it out. Even though Eric Bischoff has a big part in it, and I've always find him to be full of shit, but
yeah,
he was good. He was actually good in the episode. He's a bit of a blowhard and all that, but I'm not gonna desecrate his contributions to that time of wrestling. He's still a very important figure to a lot of things. But
who else wrestled on the event? The Road Warriors.
I think a lot of those NWO guys were on there. I'd have to watch it, but I remember Scott Norton had a big part in it, and I think Too Cold Scorpio was involved because he wanted to kill somebody on the show, and Scott Norton's like, "You can't kill somebody here."
Was it not like kind of like the Saudi Arabia shows before like their time? Was it not like that, where like the government is going to pay you $1 million, millions, and you just come and do your thing and you leave?
No, I think it was a little more like you're here for this in this country, and nobody really knew what was going on. And
well, no one in the country knows who these people are, right? We have to first just.
You really have to watch the episode, because I think even Eric Bischoff talks about how he went for a run, in North Korea, and he kind of realized I shouldn't be out here right now, kind of thing.
Oh boy,
I could be paraphrasing or like remember it wrong, but there's a lot of things that
it's a real scary place, dude. It is a military run. It's like a giant gang runs the whole place. So I mean, that's kind of scary.
And that's putting it very lightly.
Yeah, maybe we need to talk about that.
It's an alternate universe,
event.
Frankly.
Maybe we need to talk about that event a little more on a different episode. But it's a fascinating.
Just saying that there was a relationship there that made this happen, and obviously that's one of the controversial things about Inoki is he had relationships
with North Korea.
Yeah.
Fairly close, all things considered. Inoki's retirement from professional wrestling matches came in 1994 by 1998, and it was a special series in which Inoki relived a lot of his MMA matches in professional wrestling rules, as well as matches. So he had a long retirement run, right? It's kind of cheesy, right? Like, who's doing it now?
I don't
Muda.
think anyone's doing it. Muda's doing it, yeah.
But he, Muda's gonna milk his retirement, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You know who did not milk his retirement?
The Undertaker?
No. No.
Come on, go.
I'm thinking Liger, because he did a year, right? 1 year.
Liger is
and he lost
one of the most.
Like every time.
He lost every match like his last 5 years. Liger is one of the most.
And he just did a 1 year retirement run, right? Like 1 year. And then he came to America. He did, he did a few things.
He did NXT.
Lost every time. Lost his last final matches. And then everyone cried.
Unbelievable. One of the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Selfless.
Yeah.
Pro wrestlers. And just people of authority, because obviously he was still a really big guy in the dojo. And is he still to this day working in the dojo?
I think he is. I don't know if he lives there.
I don't think
probably
he
does,
like he
bro. He probably does.
Documentary,
because he still does commentary a lot.
He does a lot of commentary. He probably, I don't know if there's a booking committee or something, but I'm pretty sure
you can't separate him from the business. Let's just put it that
I'm pretty sure he is given a space and has a voice.
Yeah.
Maybe not as big as some of the others, but I'm pretty sure
he's
part of the equation.
Enough about Liger. He did his 1 year retirement. It was classy as fuck, right?
Yeah.
We had homie Enoki doing 4 year retirement run, which is larger than life, right? Is Enoki.
He knew it, and it was kind of the opposite of a selfless personality was Enoki, I guess.
He's just like, yeah, dude, we're going to do all these crazy matches. He did
all in honor of me.
he made a WCW appearance, defeating Steven Regal in a non-title match at Clash of the Champions 28.
What year was that?
I'm trying to find out. 98? Hang on.
Wow, we're talking about he was 54 years old, huh?
94. Sorry. 94. So
98 would have been late. That would have been right in the heart of
yeah,
Monday Night Wars.
That's a cool one. I might have to go check that out on the network.
I was actually randomly watching some old WCW with Regal and
Regal's good.
A Regal. Oh yeah, it's great. A Regal Alex Wright match. And believe it or not, it was actually really good. And Alex Wright was pretty underrated for what he could do back then. If he was coming up now, I think he would have been a way bigger star.
I've been learning about Mike Awesome.
Mike Awesome was great.
I didn't really know a lot about him. I didn't realize
Mike Awesome was one of the best big men ever.
Yeah, he was huge, bro.
And athletic.
And they asked dumbass, what's his name, from WWE, wrestling with...
Bruce Pritchard.
Bruce Pritchard, and he was like,
yeah,
he just didn't have what it takes. I'm like, you're a fucking idiot, bro.
No, like if he was wrestling now, he'd be huge.
Yeah,
huge star.
Yeah.
He was ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time.
Yep. And, so we recently talked about wrestling and MMA, and in '98, Inoki went and defeated Don Fry in the final match of his career. Inoki would later participate in 4 exhibition matches after his retirement. In 2000, at a Ricky Dozan memorial event, Inoki was defeated. So this is kind of like post, like I'm retired, but I still need that money.
Right, or I just need to be involved in certain things.
He wrestled Renzo Gracie to a time limit draw, kind of cheesy. He teamed with the great Sasuke to defeat Giant Silva, the MMA guy, and Red and White Mask. And 2 years later, in 2003, Inoki wrestled the last match of his career, facing Fujinami, right? And that was part of Fujinami's retirement ceremony. So, kind of a cool thing that Fujinami and him wrestled as their last hurrah ever. That was both of their last matches. But wait, Fujinami still wrestles. Hang on now.
He wrestles here and there.
Fucking Fujinami lied.
Don't get me wrong, like, for his age and everything, he's
good.
He looks all right out there, yeah.
Not quite Chris Jericho level, which we need to do a whole episode on
Jericho's
him soon because he is
3 years old.
That's true. That's true. Good point. Okay. So after New Japan, right? This was in... he left in 2005. Yuke's bought New Japan. Do you know who Yuke's is?
Is that the video game company that's allegedly working on the
alleged
AEW
It's not
game?
alleged.
And they did a lot of those great wrestling games from the 90s.
Good call, Justin. Yuke's is a wrestling game company, and they make good wrestling games. They do not make Fire Pro Wrestling. Don't DM me about that. They make 3D wrestling games. They made SmackDown versus Raw.
Bring the Pain. And I think they were involved
some good
in
ones.
No Mercy.
No Mercy. And they made like a lot of Japanese games too.
Right.
But they are working on the AEW game, which honestly looks like shit from my standpoint.
I'm not worried about what it looks like necessarily. I want to see how it plays.
Dude, I heard a report of someone who went and played it, and he's like, it does not play good.
That would be a huge disappointment.
I think it's going to. I think it's going to be, bro.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to stick to our Fire Pro Wrestling.
Anyways.
Yeah.
That's a huge
Maybe when it comes out, like, we'll buy it, or I'll buy it, we'll share it or something. And
that might be... It's going to be Kenny Omega's biggest disappointment, and what Aubrey... They were heavily involved, so don't let us down.
I think they might, but we will play it, and I'll tell you what, I'm announcing it right now. We'll do a review of it, okay, when it comes out.
Well, yeah, we still haven't done a wrestling and video games episode, so...
Well, we can do a wrestling, and, we can... we're having backstage conversation here. We can just review that game. If it's good or bad. Later on...
So send us a review copy, Ukes.
Yes, send us one, Ukes. Give us a code. motherfuckers.
Oh.
So, have you heard of the Inoki Genome Federation?
The Enoki Genome Federation.
Yeah.
No,
It was founded in 2007. Okay.
Okay.
But now I was fascinated because I read up on this, and the first main event was Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar.
Kurt Angle. Wow. Okay.
That's a good one, huh?
Yeah. Can't be bigger than that. Yeah. About that time.
At Sumo Hall.
Wow.
So, but then there was another one like this sumo guy, Suzukawa, was scheduled to face Bob Sapp in an IGF.
I thought you were going to say Bob Saget. That would have been really interesting.
That would have been if he was doing comedy and then wrestling. Yeah. He was doing an IGF Special Rules heavyweight bout, and it was to be held under MMA rules, but the fighters would not wear gloves. Closed fist strikes would have been allowed, but palm strikes are not okay. The event was to air on HDNet in America. However, the fight was canceled due to last-minute disputes with the Japanese audience in attendance, told by the promoter involved in the dispute that Bob Sapp had lost the will to fight. So, some dumb drama.
He lost his smile?
He lost his smile.
Wow.
This is a company that lasted a little bit. They didn't really do a whole lot. It tried to kind of mix.
Weird name, Genome. I mean, why? And then like pancreas and all these weird names sometimes.
No, it's not pancreas. It's pancreas. Pancreas.
Well, what does that even mean?
It's like fighting.
Is it? Does that mean fighting in Japanese or something?
No, it's like pancreas. It's like a style of hybrid martial arts and wrestling.
Okay, I didn't know that, but okay.
So, Inoki was put in the WWE Hall of Fame as part of the class of 2010. Did you know that?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
they added Fujinami as well, and Liger.
He was like 2014, I think, and then Liger was added during the pandemic era, I think.
Yeah. And, just once again, we go into the early 2000s and kind of, his thing in New Japan, which was like having guys be fighters, And you talk about the early New Japan dojo, which was what? It was Brian Danielson and Samoa Joe and Rocky Romero.
Yeah, and TJ Perkins.
And they had to study, like
Shinsuke
MMA.
Nakamura.
Yep. They had to study like MMA and wrestling.
Right, and it was probably a very hardcore thing to be a part of. It was, I think, located in Santa Monica, actually.
Do you know exactly the location?
I know the area. There's like a kind of industrial part of Santa Monica.
Oh, and they've got like one of the strip
with like a lot of warehouses and stuff that now is probably mostly like software companies, like Riot Games has theirs there.
Really?
Yeah, that's where they're
I thought they were in downtown LA.
No, I don't think so. And they have like their, arena, Blizzard Arena or whatever.
Where is New Japan located right now?
It's in Carson, which is, South Bay. If you heard of the town Torrance, which has a lot of Japanese people.
Oh,
it's in that area, so it's close to Torrance.
Is it in a like business complex?
No, it's probably in an industrial area with like a bunch of offices and warehouses.
I think I've seen their thing. It's just like a logo. It says New Japan out front, but it's probably weightlifting equipment and a ring. No,
I bet you I could look up where it is too. Let's see if I wanted to drive to the New Japan dojo in LA.
Show me what you got.
Carson. Let's see here. LA dojo. Oh, there it is. Carson. That'd be a 34-minute drive right now.
Right now, but tomorrow would be an hour.
It's 25 miles from where I live. And yeah, it's in an industrial park with like a bunch of like warehouses and, import export kind of area, you know.
Yeah, and you said there's a Japanese contingency in Torrance, or a Japanese
Torrance
community.
has a lot of Japanese Americans.
I actually saw this guy recently, and he was like, yeah, I was raised in Southern California around all Japanese people, but he was explaining that it was not the same as being in Japan, because, you know, obviously it's America, and he was
a lot of them are third and fourth generation people, you know.
Yeah, it was pretty fascinating.
Japanese Americans and people that were whose relatives were the internment camps and stuff.
Oh, Jesus, let's not get into that, brother.
No, I'm just saying that's how long some of them have been here.
When you guys go to Japanese like meetups, does your partner speak Japanese, or do they speak English?
To their friends, Japanese.
No, but like to the meetups.
What do you mean
if you meet someone that she doesn't know?
It kind of depends, because you can't.
Or does she know everyone? Oh, you can't assume.
No.
Well, she told me. Nihonjin desu ka? Right?
Well, yeah, but you know that's. I mean, if she goes to a Japanese market and sees someone, she'll assume they're Japanese, right? Like the checkout person and stuff.
But don't you go to little Japanese festivals?
Not really.
Oh, that's a rarity.
Yeah, and if you do, it's like there is a lot of mix of, you know, just Japanese Americans there and stuff. Like Tokyo.
I will tell you this, Justin. I have a friend who is in town, and he actually is one of the people on the Japanese American Educational Foundation. So they run events with the Japanese people in this town, and I think there's like 12 of them. It's like 90% Korean. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's obviously the highest population.
Well, also there's a military bases here, right?
Right.
What's the closest military base to you?
Well, I mean, probably like big one, Camp Pendleton, down by San Diego.
Dude, I want to go to Korea. Dude, will you bring me to Koreatown and eat some Korean food with me?
I mean, I guess it's
like
2 miles from here.
You don't sound that excited about it, though.
I'm not a huge fan of Korean food, really, but you know.
Well, are we going to go get expensive steaks or what?
I don't know. I don't know.
Bro, we got to figure out. I'm sorry, it's a ways away, right?
Yeah.
We got to figure out where we're going to eat, though, bro. You got to take me someplace good.
We'll figure it out.
All right, cool. We will figure it out. We are talking backstage stuff. But that's okay, because you know what, guys? We appreciate you listening to this. Also, if anyone's playing Fortnite right now, hit me up. I've got the season pass. I'm about 3 characters in. All right, Justin. So, commenting a little more about the mix between MMA and wrestling, right? Like, let's explore this idea, because it's kind of a failure of an idea from Enoki, and wrestling and pro wrestling MMA and pro wrestling are two totally different things, right? We talked about this in our last episode.
Yeah, they're 2 different things, but I think they run parallel to a degree.
Well, we've seen the history, right? Like, the history does, but nowadays, is there really anything that runs parallel with them?
Just the promotion aspect, I think.
Knowing the holds, though, knowing the knowing how to put on certain holds, right?
Yeah, and in the opposite reasons. But I think that they still go hand in hand and run in terms of having to talk people into a building and sell tickets.
That's very true.
And wanting people are expecting a competitive.
They're expecting entertainment.
To get knocked out in 2 seconds, right? So I think the entertainment and the promotion level are very parallel.
Well, and you say not get knocked out in 2 seconds, but let's be honest here. Mike Tyson, we watched him just for that.
Well, that, and I think in those 90s eras when he was fighting nobodies, people were like, I spent $40 and he punched a guy in the face and that was it. 2 seconds. I think there was a lot of controversy behind that kind of thing back then. But I think Inoki's approach when you think about it, it was a few different things. I think number one, him wanting to mix that in. I think he wanted people to, like touched on it earlier, to if they had to shoot, if someone was disrespecting wrestling, that they'd be able to hold their own in some type of respect. And I also think there was a part of it where he felt like those dudes had to have as tough of an upbringing as he did. Maybe it was because he wanted to take it out on them, or he just doesn't think it's fair that he had to get it and not them.
Yeah.
And he just wanted their reputation to be as legit tough guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what?
You know,
honestly, and again, I don't want to harp over our last episode, although only 30 people listen to that, so we need more people listening. So if you're hearing this, you know, MMA and pro wrestling, they have so many of the same skills, but like we talked about last time, it's the opposite ending. You want to help and preserve your opponent instead of, you know, destroying them, right?
Well, yeah, it was within everyone's best interest to come out unscathed, right?
So it's a little confusing to train on both of these things now. You know, in one day I go and I'm supposed to kill my fucking opponent. The next day at work, I'm supposed to preserve my opponent.
It's very strange, but like we said, I guess he had his reasons, but at the same time...
Do you know, here's a little trivia for you, Justin. I think you'll like this. Do you know why Shinsuke Nakamura uses knees so much?
They do a lot of damage.
Well, because he said in MMA, the knees fucked him up the worst.
Yeah, they do a lot of damage, and also I think they're very safe for the person giving
well, the way Nakamura does it, they're very safe.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're safe. Like, you can punch someone and hurt your hand, right?
Yeah.
You give someone a knee, it's probably not going to hurt you as much.
Yeah, and with the knee, you can use your whole thigh.
And also, when you come in someone with a knee, you're also separating the rest of your body from them as well. I think it's protective. It's protective as it is an attack.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and then you have guys like let's talk about my boy Hanare, right? Trained in Muay Thai. And it shows in his wrestling. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean...
Rising knee strike, you know, he's a great striker, actually.
But in a way, on the, you know, playing devil's advocate to the whole approach, what better way to sell being punched in the face than knowing
getting
what it
punched?
feels like?
Yeah.
Than knowing what it really feels like and how, and knowing what your reaction is going to be to it. So
yeah,
that could be part of it as
True.
well.
It's an interesting business philosophy. It's an interesting training philosophy. It's kind of sad that it really didn't work with Enoki in the end. It's really just it almost destroyed the company, right? And you've heard of that Enokiism, and the company was just falling apart at that time.
Yeah, there's a lot of stubbornness to that approach.
But I think like we both see some kind of positivity in it, and maybe it's just that, you know, it's tough too because, you know, when you make Liger do a MMA match, that's going to go on their permanent record, you know? Like, wrestling matches don't go on your permanent record, but shoot matches do. And so, like, you look up...
You have a lot to lose, I guess.
Yeah, so...
I mean, I guess not as much now, but I mean, a guy like CM Punk, who went and had two horrific,
you
know, fights, came back, and it really didn't spoil his... you know, fictional character, I guess, but
you have people like Ronda Rousey who lost twice and bowed out. They're just like, nope, I'm gonna go into wrestling now. So, but you know, in the end, all that influence really comes from Enoki, and yeah, you gotta respect him for all that. You doing okay, Justin?
I'm doing fine. I'm all right. I got a little life left.
You got a little life left?
Yeah, I got enough.
Okay.
I got enough.
Cool.
Little Pepsi there.
Good. Let's talk about the politician Enoki, okay?
All right, we're moving on here.
We are moving on to 1989 when he was elected to the House of Councilors as a representative of the Sports and Peace Party. The Sports and Peace Party. Is that liberal, conservative? I have no clue.
I don't know.
He met with Saddam Hussein for release of prisoners from... Wow. Maybe I didn't write enough notes about this.
This is a guy that I don't know if ego is the right word, maybe it is, but he really felt himself to be a very important person.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. And I have this here. In 1990, he traveled to Iraq in an unofficial one-man diplomatic mission and negotiated with Saddam Hussein for the release of Japanese hostages before the outbreak of the Gulf War. Pretty intense.
Yeah.
Talk about a leader.
This is a guy with no fear whatsoever, yeah.
It was then that he personally organized a wrestling event in Iraq for the purpose of freeing 41 captive Japanese nationals, which was ultimately a success with 36 nationals ultimately freed. So, wow.
Yeah,
some real political, diplomatic skill here. He says, we'll do a wrestling match in Iraq if you release our boys. Pretty incredible.
That is.
Huh. Yeah.
Definitely.
I don't know what company did the wrestling event, but, man, again, okay, you and I, we talked, we said, we're not going to try to take over our companies, and then it's like, okay, fuck a company, Inoki's going to try to, influence politicians and countries. What was the limit for this guy?
Yeah.
Incredible. 2013, he announced he would run again for a seat in the Diet, which is like our kind of senators, under the Japanese Restoration Party, and he won the election, and he returned to Japan's upper house as an MP. He was suspended in 2013 for 30 days because he took an unauthorized trip to North Korea.
There you go.
I mean, this guy just does what he wants, right?
Apparently, yeah. I mean, there's where the controversy starts to kick in a little bit with that.
Yeah. It was his 27th visit to North Korea, and he explained that the North Korean abductions of Japanese citizens has caused the Japanese government to close the door on diplomacy, and so he wanted to be the diplomat, right? So we have to call him a diplomat, too. Right? Wrestler, senator, diplomat.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, he was thinking of running for the governor of Tokyo in 2014. This is weirdly enough after he visited North Korea once again. So, it's a real close relationship. He's visited North Korea about 30 times at this point. You want to talk a little about that?
Well, I mean, obviously that's where a lot of the controversy comes in. I mean, they did do a wrestling show there 20 years prior, right? Or 30 years prior. So his relationship with North Korea is obviously anyone that's been in North Korea 30 times. There's going to be
30 times.
There's going to be a little questioning behind that.
Yeah. It seems pretty innocent, honestly. I mean, I don't think he's sharing trade secrets with fucking Pyongyang.
No, but I think that it's really good for his ego, and he feels important that he gets to do that, and
that's kind of a running dialogue with Enoki, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the North Koreans kind of seem to appreciate those strong figures and athletes like, I don't know, Dennis Rodman and stuff.
Dennis Rodman, they love him.
There's an obsession
they love him.
Have with, athletes and
it's
strong
like
figures,
big celebrities who are sympathetic to the cause, and we obviously cannot be sympathetic to the cause. You're flying to the country, which means you're giving money to the country, right?
I have no idea where that comes from, or how you even would book a flight or organize that. But I guess someone would have to get money for it.
You get your private jet. You get your private jet.
Yeah, I don't know if it's supplied by North Korea, or I don't know how any of that
would even work.
I don't plan on. Yeah, I don't even know how.
Do you want to go there with me?
Way over there. I certainly don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
Definitely not.
I recently watched a 2-hour YouTube video about a filmmaker from China who was kidnapped, and then they kidnapped his wife later so that he could.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was absolutely. And they lived there for like 30 years. It was fucking terrible.
Yeah, I've seen some of those shows where, you know, someone goes there and wraps their shoes in, you know, because they were dirty in a newspaper, and they get in trouble because the newspaper was with the you know, whatever on it, some political figure, and it was disparaging, and they go to jail, you know.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible the fact that there is a old Korean culture which exists, very old, and that it's been split into two, but that's beyond the scope of this podcast. Inoki's relationship with North Korea was a big strain on his political efforts because, I mean,
you can only get so far with that type of relationship, for sure.
Yeah, pretty much, Justin. You said it. So Inoki, we're going to talk a little bit about MMA. He was influenced by Karl Gotch, hooking and shooting, catch wrestling. He liked to book people that were wrestlers and boxers, judoka, karateka, kung fu, sumo. And I think that was a good idea, right? Like, we like seeing a freak show fight, right? Do you?
He definitely added a little bit of a circus or even like a Street Fighter 2 element, right?
There you go.
People from all over the world with different styles, and made wrestling like a 90s fighting game.
Yeah. There was a match with karateka Everett Eddy, and Eddie had previously completed a mixed skills bout against a boxer, and he lost by knockout. And this bout ended when Eddie got fucking power bombed. So yeah, I kind of want to watch that. I want to see a dude fucking get power bombed and get knocked out. Right? It'd be pretty cool.
Sure.
We talked about Muhammad Ali. We talked about that last episode, right?
Yeah, we talked pretty in detail about that, for sure.
So, and you know, Enoki, he did a lot of MMA stuff. New Japan Pro Wrestling Ultimate Crushed, which was like an MMA thing. Inoki Bomaye shows, which we've heard about. And like I said, he did a match against Renzo Gracie, which was a professional wrestling match. It took place in Bomaye 2000. He was the ambassador for the International Fight League's Tokyo entry. Before that promotion died, and the Inoki Genome Federation promoted wrestling and MMA stuff. He was married to a couple people over the years. I don't know if that's really that important. He did convert to Islam in 1990. Did you know that?
Yeah, I saw his name was Mohammed Hassan Enoki towards the end, right?
Yeah. He went to a pilgrimage to Karbala in Iraq, and he changed his religious views. So, it's a weird guy. This is one thing I'm going to say, Justin, is we never really discussed his match quality tonight, right?
He was just bigger than that and beyond that, and
it's similar to Hulk Hogan in that sense, where it's like the actual in-ring stuff really didn't matter. And obviously we're talking about a guy who's like negotiating with Iraqis for hostages, and
it was more about the presentation and the ego than it was about 5-star matches in the Tokyo Dome at that time. It was just a different...
Yeah, it was the aura. It was the aura.
Yeah.
And in a way, I kind of miss the time in wrestling, which we never really got to experience, when a guy could get by on his aura alone, right?
It's like... It will never be laid out like that again. There's too many companies and corporations and entities that
and the wrestling business is so much more competitive.
Right.
But an Inoki type of guy, it's not about being in the ring. It is about that aura that he brings. I mean, we talked about it before, right? He's like an extremely handsome, charismatic guy. And, combined with that would be enough to make a good wrestler, right? But then you have the leadership aspect and the, takeover in that this guy wants to always be running shit. So.
Yeah, and you have the ego and the all that.
The ego? Yeah.
Combined, yeah.
Yeah. So, what a figure, man. Now that he's passed away, who else are we going to have to do? Who's going to pass away soon? I don't want you to, kill it, Justin.
We're not doing no death pool or anything, are we? I mean, jeez.
Is it Vince McMahon? Is that our next? We already did Vince McMahon, brother.
We already did. Yeah, we could just
cut and paste, yeah. So, I don't know, but
No.
It sucks that Inoki died. We've known about it going in for a while. It's really the last thing I have to say about him is that, he was kind of a shady character. He did some weird shit, but he was a major superstar.
Yeah.
A god among
Definitely.
superstars. I mean, it's hard to downplay that how much of a major star this guy was. The likes of
if he was American, he could have maybe been president. Like that's how
pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, so we are sad in the passing of Enoki, and yeah, that's about as much as I got to say on that. Justin, have you had a good night tonight, brother?
Not too bad.
Chilling a little bit.
Yeah, definitely did some errands and grocery. Well, anyway, who cares?
Yeah,
and
I do.
Yeah, and then I got to start the whole week again and work for the weekend.
It's okay. I bet you can do it, brother. Well, thank you, guys. Thank you to all that's listening. We did a solid hour on Enoki. And, go back and watch one of his matches. Whether it's him fighting, cinematic match.
Ali
or Muhammad Ali. Or just one of his boring-ass count-out matches. Go watch it. Go respect it. And then, go watch some Sayama. Some... New Japan in the late 80s.
Take a flight to North Korea in his honor. Go visit that country.
If you can fly to North Korea, go visit North Korea.
Yes, go visit. Enjoy it.
I don't know if it's so much as a visit as a, hostage experience.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. And
you just did.
Don't have any experience to... yeah, that was a bit of a satire there.
Okay.
But,
yeah. I think that the North Korea thing, it's probably beautiful as fuck. It's like this land that's just fucked up from politics. Very sad, very very sad. You know what? Fuck Antonio Inoke. Y'all be thinking about y'all put your praise into North Korea instead. All right. I'm getting out of here, Justin. You have a great night, brother.
Well.
All right.
Yeah.
And
See
listeners, we will see you all later.